All right, so we're going to start talking about reproduction and parturition. When we left off, we were talking about the digestive system, and this is the other major body system that we're going to cover in our animals is the reproductive system. Right. As far as general reproductive terminology goes, this is what you need to know. So castration. Castration is removing the testicles of male animals to prevent breeding. The reason that we typically only castrate males in livestock as opposed to, typically with your dogs and your cats, you're going to spay your females and you'll neuter your males. The reason why we focus on males in livestock is purely because testicles are external, so it's a lot easier to gain access to them on, say, a 2,000-pound cow or beef animal than it would be to try and access the ovaries on a 2,000-pound beef animal. It's significantly easier to castrate males. You can do it on the farm. You don't have to worry about putting them under or doing surgery or anything like that. It's actually a pretty simple procedure. So castration is typically only done in males when you're talking about livestock. Colostrum is the first milk that's produced after a mammal gives birth. Usually it's around for about 24 hours, and it contains antibodies that the baby needs for immunity. So it's really important that livestock babies get that colostrum within the first 24 to 48 hours of life. That's going to help with their immunity. It's going to help bolster their immune system and help them be able to fight off diseases. So estrus. Estrus is commonly known as heat. So if you've ever heard, oh, my dog's in heat or whatever, that's basically what estrus is. And it's basically just the time that a female animal is receptive to be bred. So this is the time when she's like, all right, yes, I've ovulated, I'm ready to be bred so that I can become pregnant and have a baby. That's what estrus is. Now the estrus cycle is the length of a female cycle from one estrus to the next. Now in humans, we have a menstrual cycle where there's actual visible menses that you can see. In livestock, they don't have that, they just have estrus. So they're not going to show any visible menses, but their behavior will change when they come into heat. So that's how you can tell kind of how their estrus cycle is. And then gestation, so this is just a fancy word for pregnancy. So if an animal's pregnant, we say that she's in gestation. She's in the gestation period. So puberty is the age at which animals reach sexual maturity and begin to come into heat. So female animals will begin to have their estrus cycles at puberty, and male animals will become sexually mature. So they will be able to actually breed a female and fertilize the egg. Lactation is the period of time that milk is secreted by the mammary gland. So that's just a fancy word for, whenever your female is producing milk, she's lactating. Parturition is a fancy word for giving birth. So when the baby actually starts coming, the female goes into labor, we say that she's going into parturition. Ovulation is when the egg is released from the ovary, and fertilization is when the sperm and egg come together and form a single-celled organism, which we call a zygote. This is just a picture kind of demonstrating fertilization. So these are all different reproductive traits of the different species that we cover. You'll see for each species there's the age range at puberty, the average length of their estrus cycle, and believe it or not, we're looking at cattle, swine, sheep, and goats. They're all pretty similar as far as their average length of estrus cycle, but then if you look at the column where it says average length of estrus, so the estrus cycle is right at about 3 weeks for all of these different animals. But the length of actual estrus or heat, so a cow is only in heat for 16 to 18 hours, whereas pigs are in heat for 3 days. So that's kind of where your difference comes in. And then average length of gestation, you can divide that number by 30 to kind of figure out approximately how many months they're pregnant for. We'll stop there. We'll cover the female reproductive tract in the next video.